Hello, 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 and welcome to Rainbows Rising, where we ascend together. I'm your host, Rainbow Raaja, and I would like to welcome Althea. I don't know if she has a last name to that, but
It's
I
okay.
know her
Hi.
as Althea.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. It is such a privilege to have you on. I have been following you personally, not as a professional, but personally for quite some time. And your light code transmissions are so powerful and they just they're ooey gooey
Thank
yumminess.
you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate.
So thank you so much for I guess taking my invite to come on to the show and to share your gift and to give the listeners like tips on how they can connect with their guides cuz really that's my goal here on Rainbows Rising is to help people access their gifts, their guides and their inner wisdom with more ease. And I know there's all these programs out there and it can get really difficult finding information. So thank you so much for coming on and sharing what you know and yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it's like it's there's a lot of information out there and it can be a little bit overwhelming for people, so it's nice to hear it. Me and you, we both channelers, we both already connecting, so it's nice to be able to guide people into that. And I think there's a lot of confusion out there as well. I was just saying earlier, no one really teaches us these things. It's really a bit of trial and error. So when you see someone who's, oh, okay, they doing a little bit, okay, so let me like figure out how they're doing it and see and understand. And really that's all it is about. It's about sharing the tools and sharing the knowledge so that everyone can have it and everyone can be able to heal themselves, heal others, connect to their guides, connect to their higher self, and be in that high alignment. I always say that a good, spiritual teacher or mentor, or call it whatever, knows that they're learning as much from you as you are learning from them. So for me, every time I speak, every time I channel, every time I give out information, I learn just as much myself through it, if it makes sense.
Absolutely. A lot of my episodes are actually very much I go in with an intention of what I want to bring to the audience, and my guides will just go on a little tangent or they'll nudge me like, "Hey, talk about this." So, I learned so much just being in alignment and being in the flow. So I really resonate with that. I totally resonate with that. So, I know how I started my journey, right? It's more like you stumble into it than anything. But how did you start your journey and how did you develop the tool set to do the work you do? Because what you do is a lot more intensive than somebody say channeling somebody's dead grandmother or somebody channeling a guide's information
Yeah,
like, oh,
it's
you
another
should be eating
frequency.
more kale.
Yeah. So it's always like I've always had psychic intuition and prophetic dreaming. Even as a child, I would see shadows and things, and everything was quite open. It then kind of like closed up and blocked a little bit in my teens, and in my
Hmm.
early 20s. And then I'd, I've had different, very intense experiences. I had a near-death experience 5, 6 years ago, which really, really helped me change lifestyle and brought me closer to a more spiritual life. Let's put it that way. I started getting energy work and Reiki done about 8 or 9 years ago. So my journey with Reiki has also been quite a long one. And then in 2018, I was basically abducted. So I wasn't really abducted. I had like lower vibrational frequency and negative entities come into my room and I physically confronted them. So do you know what I mean? You don't really
I
go back
do.
from that. That's just like,
I
okay, they
do.
yeah, they
For
they
all those listeners out there who may not understand, for someone who is energy sensitive, you just get a feeling there's something there. You might see it, you might hear it, you might smell it.
yeah.
Everybody has their own their own
No, no, this was
sensory.
very third dimensional density.
Yeah.
These, they were here. They physically, I
Oh
was
my God.
physically, yeah, I was physically touched, and yeah, it was quite intense. So that was then what spiraled me more into an understanding, but it was quite crazy because I had been doing research on, just like other life forms and stuff like that since I was maybe 12. I felt like there was something there that I had to know. And then after this experience, my perception completely shifted.
Hmm.
Um, and that allowed me to open, and that allowed me to start downloading information. And that's when I started connecting all the dots. I think about a year after that, I had two very intense clearings from quite a few different light language channelers, worked on me all at the same time, and allowed me
Ooh.
to release and activate. And then, yeah, and then I slowly started activating the light language. It started with the hands, before with the gestures. And then after like a month or two, my throat started opening as well. And yeah, and then with just practice, love, and trusting myself, trusting my channel. And also, like, this is what I always say, and like to explain to the people I work with as well. It's so being in alignment, being in flow, is somewhere between surrendering to the will of the universe and having discipline. Like, if you want to be a channeler and you want to do it properly, like, there's no like halfways. You need to be disciplined. You need to, there's things that you need to be mindful and aware. You need to protect your field. You need to be physically strong, especially when you're withstanding a channel. Like I do. Like, people who've seen my work know, like, I move, there's a lot of stuff passes through me. So it's very important for me to be also physically fit. And I don't think people emphasize this enough,
Mm.
when they're channeling. Like, as you said, it's different if you're just a medium and you're tapping in and you're channeling someone's dead grandfather, or someone who's passed on. Like, I'm able to do that as well. It's not really what I do. It's a different frequency, so I can do it if I want to. Like, it does occasionally happen, that people come through in sessions and whatnot, but it's not, I work on another frequency, because with the light language it's a little bit different, if
It's
it
a
makes
different
sense. So
modality. It really
yeah,
is.
it's just a different frequency. I mean, when you're channeling people who've passed over, it's usually fourth dimensional density stuff that you're channeling. When you're with the light language, it's 5, 6, and up. So it's just tuning into something different, and it's more. You can give out. I feel like I can give more to the collective in this way, rather than channeling someone for an individual. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I have dabbled in a lot of different fields myself. I've done the talking to somebody's, passed on person, but the trouble with that is then nobody can really move on. I noticed after several sessions working with somebody's loved one, it's like you act as a bridge for them not to be able to let go, and you're not able to let these people heal. So I stopped doing that work, and I started working with guides in
Okay.
clearing and opening hearts and working with crystals and stuff.
Yeah.
So and that's a really interesting point about the fourth dimensional energy. And for those of you out there that maybe haven't been doing this yet, um, energy, it has like different feelings, almost like food has different tastes. So like when you're working with like fourth dimensional energy or a specific being, they have different feelings and flavors. I'm doing quotes, air quotes, flavors that you can feel into and be able to like call back that energy time and time again to work with those guides. You'll also be able to know when they come, because you'll just be like, oh, hey, I know you.
Mm.
So you were talking about having your body be a clear vessel, being strong enough. Now,
Mm.
that's actually a really interesting point. I haven't heard any other light language people really bring up. We hear about, they'll talk about having vegan diets or being breatharians or having, these really controversial, yeah, right? Really controversial living like lifestyle changes. But for people who live in like, just live normal lives,
Mm.
and are looking for an easy transition into taking care of their vessel to hold their light body at a higher vibration,
Mm.
what are some easy like beginner steps to
Mm.
having a cleaner vessel, a temple body, to hold these
Yeah.
frequencies and to allow them to move through with more ease.
I would say, okay, so I would say everything is a tool, the same with food. So I'm going to give the meat example because it's a good way and you can see it in both ways. So I haven't had meat or fish in over 10 years. I don't like the taste. I actually don't like it. So that's why I stopped. I'm not depriving myself of anything.
Okay.
And the meat is can be quite heavy, so it can take up a lot of energy to digest it. And if it's not been, if it's like been slaughtered and all the pain and all the energy the
Mhm.
animal goes through, you need to transmute that. So that's going to slow your process down into clearing your system, if it makes sense. So, but I know channelers who are really amazing light language channelers, who not necessarily doing the work online, but they're doing the work, who still eat meat. And the reason being, it's because once you reach a certain frequency, whatever you put in your body, you're going to be able to transmute it. So it's good to eliminate certain things when you're in the process of getting to a certain frequency. But once you're there, then and you're able to maintain it and you know how to maintain it, then you can, if you want to, eat meat.
Mm.
You know what I mean? But I would, if you want to get to a certain frequency, I would eliminate the meat, obviously alcohol, smoking, all
Yep.
the things really that pollute your system and your body. And physical exercise is really good as well because you physically moving stuff through. I do. So for me, it works nicely, but again, this is me. I have to withstand quite a lot. I do both cardio weights and yoga. Every time I train, I do both because I find that the cardio and the weights really ground me, and then the yoga really helps me with maintaining the alignment. I'll occasionally
Mm.
do a little bit of qigong and tai chi and like movement meditation as well. So I used to do only one, and it just wasn't enough. I need to do a little bit of a combination of both. But if you're just starting out, yeah, maybe like trying a bit of yoga. If you like running or going outside, even grounding like in the forest. But it is important to keep your system clean and clear. And the same with your mind. It's not just a physical vessel; it's also the mind. Staying in a frequency of love, in a frequency of gratitude, of abundance, of patience, of compassion. These are all emotions that help you raise your frequency, and then be a good channel. I would always be wary of someone who is channeling or doing energy work if they are not, if they like smoking or drinking, or do you know what I mean? There's a
I
lot of
do.
misconceptions out there. This is no judgment. Don't get me wrong. I would never judge anyone. Everyone is on their own path. But if you ask me personally, I wouldn't go to someone that I know that they're not really maintaining their system clear. Yeah.
I can say that when I started doing light language, I did smoke cigarettes. I was when I
Me
right
too.
when I at
When
the
I
very
started, I
beginning
was
of my
also
journey.
smoking. Me too.
Yep, and I was doing like Reiki and stuff, and that helped cut down a lot. And I used to, Reiki over my food. And when you were talking about being able to transmute, I realized now when I was doing that, I was transmuting my food before eating it. I was like, oh, that's so cool. So Reiki practitioners out there, try that. It's a good tip. But when I started doing light language, the desire, I guess, to smoke really just it started feeling gross, and like I just had no interest. And there was like my body wanted it. Like I could feel that it was something outside of myself that wanted it. And I was like, I don't want it. And I was able to quit. And I think the more I did light language, the easier it was to just let that fall away. I don't drink, I don't smoke anymore. It's I think it really is the energy. I think
Yeah,
it
it's
really
a
does shift.
process like everything. Me also, I was still smoking a little bit occasionally, but I wouldn't work on people at the time. I wasn't working on people,
Mm,
so it didn't really matter. Do you know what I mean? It didn't really matter if I was well, not as much anyway, but it was the same for me. Yeah, I stopped, and then after a while I actually fell pregnant, and then I had my baby, and yeah, I've never smoked since. But I used to smoke a lot when I was younger, and then the same went with the channeling, with everything. As your frequency rises, these things naturally sort of like start to fade away and fall out, if it makes sense.
totally does. I've experienced it. 100% makes sense. It's just also knowing that you can say no. to the substance itself. Like I understand tobacco is a plant medicine. As a shaman, like I work with medicine, so it's like what does this medicine bring me? And it used to ground me. And that was what I understood, like as an empath, as somebody who's always like floating around in other dimensional planes, like psychically, it would always bring me back to my body, would bring me back to the ground beneath my feet. So until I learned how to sufficiently ground into the actual ground, I was, kind of relying on this plant medicine. But now I don't need it because I'm, grounding myself daily with practices. So moving into another thing you talked about, which was the differences between these different, I guess, frequencies and these different beings. Like, how do you know when you are bringing something into your body that it's a high vibrational being versus, of, people are using the term fault guide. I don't know how I feel about that, but, how do you, what is your process for figuring out
I'm
what
gonna
to
say
use?
something that this is what I also said it. This is the same thing that this is a theme that's been coming up for this like week and a half, maybe two for me, which is what I've been, it's very in alignment, what you're asking me with what's been coming through to me and what I've been speaking about. And I mentioned it, yeah, in my live yesterday as well for full moon. So what's been going on is a lot of channelers out there have been hijacked. They're not aware of it. But what happens is, okay, so there's fourth dimensional density implants, which are AI technology, which can be situated outside, which are very easy to remove and whatnot, and they just can cause blockages for people. So that's one thing. Then there's more, how can I explain this? It's like more technologically advanced implants that nefarious beings and lower dimensional frequency beings and whatnot place into channelers. They either abduct them or they pre-contracted and they place these into them, and they actually place them inside their cerebral cortex. And what happens is these things are being controlled, and they send impulses to them. So you'll get peoples with tens or hundreds of thousands of followers online who are channeling good information, and then they'll suddenly channel something that is not in alignment or coherent with all the rest of the information, to cause disruption, to cause confusion, to just cause drama in the awakening. And I've been seeing this more and more and more. I don't know. I
Mm.
don't know if I can say names or whatnot, but I'll just
No,
give.
no, no, no. I'm not going to say names, but there are a handful of people that some days I super resonate with what they're saying. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, so much light, so much love, like I can feel it." And then other days I'm like, this feels so fake to me. Like
Yeah,
what is going on here?" It feels like I will literally question this person,
yeah,
and I'm like, I trust my intuition so much, so it's like, why am I getting
yeah,
these mixed messages? And it's not just one person. It's like
yeah.
I feel it with multiple people, and then I have to ask myself, am I one of those people? And so that's where it comes down to, like, how can someone who is channeling or doing this work like know for certain that they're not channeling
Well,
some
generally,
other
these people
implant
will
thing?
will say things like that they're the second coming of God or Jesus, and they will tell you what to do. When someone's channeling from source and purity, they're not going to tell you what to do. They're going to hold space for you to do what you want to do. They're not, do you
Hmm.
know what I mean? They don't think they're better than anyone. They're humble, and a lot of these people who are being controlled and have been hijacked, they say things, as you said, they say things that are true and relevant and whatnot, and then they'll just be like, no, but you can't do this and you can't do that, and this is wrong and that is right. They will bring
Okay.
polarization in their teachings. Whenever there's a lot of polarization, stay away from it. We all human, so we all entitled to have our own opinion and our own understanding of whatever is going on, on a collective level. But when they start bringing you a lot of polarization or implementing their thoughts, and this is like this and that is like that and this is right and
Projecting.
that is wrong, that's when they're moving away from source. They're moving away from unity. Anything that promotes division is moving away from unity, which is moving away from source consciousness.
Absolutely. I can literally, as you're speaking, I can hear the things that those particular Instagrammers, how they'll shift from, like, oh, holding space to you have to do this or this isn't right, or and they get really aggressive in how they deliver it. So, you guys look out for that. Remember that what you consume visually is the same as what you consume like through your mouth, or, like you want to make sure that what you're listening to, what you're watching is sustaining you in a healthy way. So if anything makes you uncomfortable, just don't watch it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and you'll get a gut feeling like you,
Mm-hmm.
even if you don't have to be a channeler or spiritually advanced or whatnot to get a feeling from these people. If you feel something's off, it's generally off. Your gut is always right.
Yep. Yep. Awesome. So you had talked about these implants and these technologies. So for people who maybe are not working in the energy realm or doing any kind of like energy work necessarily, like what do you mean? Do you mean that there are beings that come and actually like insert physical objects into our bodies? You're
No,
right, right.
it's not really that physical. It's fourth
Oh,
dimensional
okay.
density, most of them. The ones that I generally remove a lot in sessions. And what happens is you can either pick them up or they actually are, well, you contracted to have them before. I had a lot that had to be removed because if you are a star seed and you have a mission, like they don't want you to do your mission. They don't want you to spread light and love. So you'll get these implants that can either be blocking your third eye, blocking your ears. They can be at the back of your head. I generally remove them around the cranial area and cranial structure. They can be in other parts of the body as well. But when they just in the lower chakras, it's more like cordings and attachments that I actually find that I remove on people. The implants are generally up high and they're not really that difficult to remove. So this is general implants. This is not the ones that are put into people who have been hijacked. This is something different. There's two different types. Well, there's many different, but these are the two different types that I'm speaking about. So this is not the ones I was speaking about before. These
So
ones
so the
are,
terminology you're using though is like this is terminology that your guides have kind of given you, and
yeah,
like so for people who maybe haven't been in the starseed land, for those of you out there, this can be heard as like blocks. You might
yeah,
have heard like your Reiki practitioner using blocks,
yeah,
or I had to extract something from your energy field. To me, when I'm working on someone like on my massage table, it will literally feel like a physical object that I am pulling, or like goop that I'm
yeah,
pulling out of
yeah.
someone. But that doesn't necessarily mean, like on a in a different dimensional plane, it might actually be like objects and stuff. But to you guys, it might just feel like heaviness, or like I don't know, like staticky,
Yeah,
weird
it depends
stuff.
because you can have
Totally
cording. So
depends.
there's a lot of different things. Like generally, implants are a lot more difficult to remove than a general cord. They're not hard, but if you know what you're doing, it's fine. But if you are, so yeah, so this is quite a difference. If you're working on yourself and you're not aware that you have implants, and then you're not going to be able to remove them, but you're going to be able to remove energetic cords because those are easier to remove. So that's kind of like a bit of a difference. If you go to someone who knows what they're doing, then they'll be able to remove them. But if you go to someone who's kind of like sort of like just clearing your system here and there, that and they can't see or they can't feel or pick up that you have an implant, then they're not going to remove it for you. So it's that I get what you mean with the terminology, but it's a little bit different
Yeah.
than having like a block or yeah, as you said, removing density, removing gooey
Yep.
stuff, removing cords, removing things. I guess it's easy for me because I have vision, so I'll see the different things, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Some energy workers
I
feel
I can tell you see the actual, like you're in that dimension working, like I've been there, so I get it. But my goal is to bridge the gap so that there is no learning curve for people. I want to make sure that people listening, they understand where you're coming from, because some of those terms might be triggering to people who are new and are like, "Oh my gosh, alien stuff. I don't know about this." But it's not like that, you guys. It's very it's
subtle.
just like you have energy stuff that maybe lower vibrational entities were jealous about certain qualities you had, and they put stuff on you, and they like turned off some of your gifts because like they're sad and angry and they don't want you to be happy. Like you're in their space, that you're
Yeah.
ruining things for them.
Yeah, that's
So,
exactly what
and
it
there's
is.
different intentions for every being to do that stuff. I just want to make sure the listeners understand, because
Of course.
I know I would be a little confused if I were at the beginning of my journey.
But it's
Like,
okay. All these
I'm
words are
not
triggering
listening to
anyway. They
anything.
trigger DNA activation and DNA memory,
Mm,
and remembering and stuff like that. So even if consciously you're not picking up 100%, your subconscious knows, and
hmm
slowly it will. Yeah, you'll remember anyway.
I'm so glad you're using the terminology because it's really important, and I know that there's upgrades and stuff, but there's always those people out there who are a little too cerebral.
Yeah.
They're
See,
like figuring things out in their heads. we
but you
get we
see,
got to dumb it down for them.
for me, it's I'm not using terminology. For me, I'm speaking normally, but
I
because it's
know.
my reality. It's the work that I do and the people that I work with every single day. Is yes, I do sometimes have to also explain a little bit, but generally, because of the work that I do, it's yeah, it's for me. It's not even. It's me who's in another. Like, do you know what I mean? You're more like, okay, so like, guys, listen, this is so. I need to also adapt and get get used to that, because for me, it's just it's how I would normally speak. But you,
And
that's
that's
why
totally
we
fine
need
because
to bridge the gap.
I feel like, I'm an activator. People who have never ever ever heard of any of the spiritual stuff, they'll come to me for a massage. Like they come to me for a massage. And I'm like, "Hey, are you open to trying new things?" And they're like, "Yeah, sure. Spa, give me spa stuff." So then I do light language singing and crystals and activations, and they leave and they come back and they're like, "What was that? You changed my life. I need more of that." Um, but they don't know
Yeah,
going in what they're getting. I feel like you get a lot of already activated star
yeah,
seeds because,
yeah,
like, when I came to you, I was, several weeks ago.
yeah,
So I've been activated. I've been doing the work for a while, but your work is very advanced, and I can feel how you almost Ant-Man it. You go down to like this tiny microscopic level and float around in people's body. Like I can feel it because I know the work, so it's like really neat to be able to, I guess, oversee or experience that. Because like I do work on people, I don't get a lot of the same work back, so it's really neat to have that. Let's kind of come back to the channeling thing, or working with your guides in general. Like, um, we've been talking about channeling for several weeks, and like how to connect with your guides, and like what are some good practices you recommend for people to actually like meet their guides and talk to them and start to build an actual relationship? Because I know, even though I've been doing this work forever, I'm even hesitant sometimes to like talk to them and be friends with them just
yeah.
because it feels weird. How do you unweird that, right?
So again, having a bit of a routine, waking up in the morning, calling on them. Remember, there's the law of non-intervention. So unless you call them, they cannot help you and they cannot come to you. I mean, I just talk to them all day, every day. So if you like walk with me around the house, I'll be talking to them. But because I know they're always there. When I first started, I needed to meditate quite a lot more. Now I'll only do my maybe like 10, 15 minutes in the morning, and then in the evening, or if I need to, maybe in the day, on and off. I'm not someone who, I mean, if you want to meditate for hours, do it. I'm never going to say no, don't do it. But even with my clients, realistically, how I train them is like I don't really give them hours of meditation, because it's people don't really have time nowadays. Meditation is a tool like everything else. But if if you want to meditate for long, you can. So I think it's really good to, when you start to have tools, things like a pendulum. or tarot cards, things that your guides can come through to you. So then you've got an anchoring in third dimensional density, and it's not just a thought in the air of you receiving something. I also sometimes will ask questions, and then I'll get goosebumps in specific areas of my body, which will be them replying. So for me, it's a little bit different now because I'm it's like I'm permanently dialed in, so I don't need to go in and ask. Whenever I think of something, I'll just get an answer. But when I first started, these were some of the things that I would do, you know, the meditation, the asking, the calling. And really, it's important to remember that they're not going to communicate with you in a linear way. So if the synchronicities are good, it means you're on the right track. Don't get attached to any number and being a specific meaning, because that's just going to bring you back into polarity. They're going to communicate in ways, yeah, that are non-linear. So an example would be through animals. They'll communicate with you through animals. So if you have any specific spirit guides that you follow, like I work with butterflies a lot, and with my cats, obviously, but with butterflies quite a lot. And whenever if I've got like an important question or something, this has been since I was a child, and I'll see a butterfly, I'll know what to do in the answer to that. So there's different ways, but just remember it's non-linear. If you ask, do I have to go left or right? You won't get a sign saying left or a sign saying right. You might get a red car, which, I don't know, your father owned and he parked it on the right side of the garage, and that means you need to go right. So does it make sense? So this is the kind of way in which they can come through. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. I love those answers because I mean you really broke it down pretty clear.
Yeah.
So, okay, so I don't is there any I don't I feel no more questions. Are there any other questions or any other things you want to give the listeners to help them on their journey to reconnecting with their star guides and with their I don't know if you do ancestors, but with their people, with
Yeah,
their
just
peeps,
trust
like
yourselves. Really trust yourselves. Your guides are there. And remember, guides are also they like us. They're also going through lessons. They're also going through their own journey. Some of them might be with you for some time. Some come, some go. You won't necessarily have them all the time with you. So I had two guys that were with me while I was pregnant. Now they're not with me anymore. Someone else has come in. So, and I don't know all of them. I don't know who they all are. I know what they send me and what they give me, but I don't know who they all are. And remember, you don't necessarily only have one higher self as well. You can have many higher versions of yourself because you are multidimensional. So just be open, and be in a space of be grounded and be in the moment, because only when you're in the moment, you're going to be able to see the messages when they come through. If you're worried about the past or the future and you're not grounded, then you're going to struggle to see the direction that you need to go in.
awesome.
Mm.
All right. Well, how much I mean, I heard you were going to be doing a transmission for
Yeah, I'll do a
everyone
little bit of
listening.
I'll do a bit of a transmission. I'll just guide you guys in. So if you just want to close your eyes, and doesn't matter if you're sitting down, where you are, where you're lying, even if you're walking and listening to this, that's also okay. Just really be in a space of openness and oneness, and just allow for the codes to come through to help you for the greatest and highest good. And don't listen with your mind, listen with your heart. Naya tokoroshe mataya rosho tokoya nata kero tokomaya nia toroshe tatot kormayetari tayat krit krot krat kronoye matoroye natiarashita kia teko tieta koroyetarashe natakara. This is going to help with opening the heart and healing the heart center, heart expansion. Yano tokoroshie matura tieto tokorot krayanat krayat naro tokoroa. Tayan mitoro ie no toshisaya toro ienat kurai mitoro shie no tokoyera tieto tochishisa sasasana. You might feel stuff releasing. You might feel sadness, anxiety, stress, let it all go. Releasing now, releasing now, releasing now, releasing now, releasing now, releasing now, clean, releasing, clean, releasing, clean, releasing, clean, releasing, clean, releasing, opening, 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 attuning, opening, attuning, opening, attuning, opening, attuning, bringing in, divine light, divine light, divine light, divine light, divine light, divine light, coming in, opening, 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 activating, 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 activating. Activating, 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 activating. Nyando to koro ye mashiso yo no to krayo, krayo, to nara, to krua ne marotiero to shita kana yamato you. Yano to yani, ret krua siet kramat krua yanatkra. Niatro iete ora shit knarot kunmar karayot kurat karat kurut kraya te natruani tra. Remembering you are whole, you are loved, you are supported. Nyato koro mishisaya, nato koro ayenatan mishisoya. You are protected. Yeto koro shia natara. You chose to be here. Nat koro mayana tiroshia. Niato koro etkraya notoro imashisa. Being in a space of oneness, compassion, love, understanding, patience, holding space for those who are not where you are just yet. You're paving the way for humanity. Imatoroshita karaya no tukuraya na tashema takaya tukuraya na tasha. Taya na tarayo no tokumia na tayamu to yoshita karet kuroya na tkara. Nietoro tera titi atukuraya matia no shusoya no tukuraya na te atioro to shisa sa. Okay. 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 Shisisi natayata. Natakayara. Yeto yoroshisayata. Tio no toya tia karot kona yata karat kurot kroya taraya matakara ye nataya torokie. Okay. Thank you. Thank you guys.
Oh, that was so good. My
Yeah.
body relaxed so much.
Very
I don't
gentle. It
know.
was a very gentle transmission.
Oh
Um,
man, but it definitely put me in a different place.
yeah.
Uh, yeah, I'm all floaty and
Yeah.
feeling good. So, question. When you started connecting with light language and like doing your activations and everything, like, do you know which star group you're working with, or like you
Yeah.
did one language there, so like
Yeah.
what language were you speaking?
So
Because I know.
I think it's important not to get attached to any
Oh,
identity, any star group, any language, or a lot of people channel out there. There's a lot of different dialects. I mainly channel
right.
from my highest self, one of my higher selves, which is the ninth dimensional Pleiadian being. I do channel from a mantis, 12th dimensional being as well, which is another part of my higher self. So it really just depends. I will generally say when I'm in channel, if I'm channeling for a collective, if I'm channeling a specific being, there's a being who he's like 12, maybe 13. He's a society being that I channel quite a lot, who actually is living just outside the atmosphere. He's a boy. So when he comes through, I do mention that it's him. So it really just depends. Sometimes I'll get a lot of technology downloads. That can be Arcturian technology generally. So that's also different from, it's still light language, but it's technology itself. So it's more actually activating stuff. So it's different,
Mm,
but I actually learned with time and practice and trusting myself and trusting my channel. When my channel first opened, I didn't really know much. I was more like a feeling, or I would set an intention, and then what would come through, I would know what it was. Now I'm just really in a space of surrender. So yeah.
mm. It's really interesting because I've had to do a lot of research for my show. I had a whole month of light language at one point. But your channeling is so different because you do, clearing, activating. And when you're doing that, you're like your hands are doing this, right? But inside the body, it literally feels like you're almost like creating like a tornado, and it's really interesting. Like I can feel everything releasing and clearing out that way. But your technique or like how you go about it is so different than what everybody else is doing, and it really makes like it makes me wonder, you know how many different ways of experiencing and like expressing light language there are. It's
Yeah.
just really,
Yeah. I
really
think
neat.
with me, I've worked very hard in integrating both my I don't say galactic and human side. So I ground a lot and I'm up there a lot. So I think maybe that's why it didn't always come through like this. It's evolved, obviously, with the English, the light language, the switching from one to the other, the movements. But yeah, I would say personally, I think it has a lot to do with having your channel clear. So as I said, being fit and healthy and doing that, but also yeah, it's different people channel in different ways. This is what works for me now, but it's I'm gonna continue evolving. Like if you look at my videos 2 3 years ago when I first started with the light language and posting videos on YouTube, you can see it's the same language and you can see the same movements, but you can also see that it's different. It's like it was less integrated. And the more I heal and integrate multidimensional parts of myself, past timelines, parallel timelines, and the more I clear, the more fluid and the more integrated it becomes, and the more I activate, and the more I put out, the more I activate myself as well. So, but I channel every day. I channel at least maybe 3 4 hours a day every day for work, for myself, for whatever it is. Sometimes even 5 or 6 hours in a day. So
Wow, that's
so
that's a lot. You take this so serious. Yes. You live it. You live the mission. I have, I personally have not found the way to integrate because my partner is very three-dimensional, does not have any interest in this world. So I have my client space and my podcasting space and my meditation space, and just kind of I have to go to those areas. And I also have two kids and have to juggle that. So it's when I do get it in once a day, but it's definitely not a commitment of 4 hours. So I commend you for that. That is amazing.
yeah, so you see,
A lot
I
of work.
can relate. I also have a child. She's a 1 year old, but I don't have a partner. I haven't had a partner for very long, since like just after I was pregnant. I'm a single mom, and it's there. You do need to give up certain things. Like I don't really like. I can't. Not that I can't, but because I don't want to put that out there, but for me to be able to be in a union with someone, it needs to be someone who is of a specific frequency, who can be integrated with me and the work that I do, because I can't allow someone in my field who is not of the highest alignment, because then that's going to be in my field, and then I'll be working on my clients, and then there'll be someone in my field while I'm working on my clients that isn't of the highest. So I've had to give up a lot to be where I am now and to do what I do the way that I do it now. And it's fine.
Mm,
It doesn't really feel like a giving up. Do you know what I'm saying? But there are
I do.
very solid boundaries that I've had to keep in place and maintain in my personal life, even with my
Mhm.
family. Like, do you know what I mean? Because for me to be able to channel the frequency and the way that I do now, I need to be in a certain frequency. And as a consequence, so does my surroundings, so does my environment. So there's a lot that I've kind of, in a way, given up, and that I've sacrificed to be able to carry on in my journey the way that I'm doing it now.
Well, I commend you for that because that takes a lot of personal power, and I understand the pain in having to do that. I've had to cut a lot of people out of my life for that exact reason. My partner brings aspects that I need. He is vital for certain my own integrations. And so I'm activating him constantly, and I've seen like so much development for him. So for me, just where I am, I was so airy. I had no grounding. He is extremely
Yeah,
grounding,
of course.
and he has provided me the support energetically in that area that I never had before. So I do get what you're saying. I've been with partners who did not hold space
Mm.
for me in a healthy way, and I've had a lot of friends that I had to cut out of my life because they weren't holding healthy space for me. And I'm very selective now with who I bring into my life and into my family's life and into my home because of that. So I totally understand. I think that bringing that up for the listeners is also really important because boundaries, like one of the core practices that I needed to learn was there's grounding, of course, but boundaries was like number two.
Mm.
Once you learn to ground, boundaries is next. You need to learn boundaries, and it's not just physical boundaries, it's energetic boundaries. It's learning to say no. When
Mm.
people pop up in your mind, it's going, that person seems to have an unhealthy attachment to me right now, or me to them. I better cut that wherever it is. Hey, guides, cut that for me. If you don't know what you're doing, just ask them to do it. They'll do it
Mm.
most
Yeah.
of the time.
Yeah.
Most of the time.
Yeah.
So, I really appreciate like you bringing up all these things. So, why don't you go ahead and tell the listeners what is going on your side? Like you're recording lives like all the time. Like, where can they find you? What should they reach out to you? Should they take your courses? Let's hear it. Let's hear your sales
Yeah,
pitch.
so I do I do have a YouTube channel. It's my name, Altea Lucrezia. It's a bit difficult to spell. But
Beautiful though.
thank you. But yeah, you can just, I mean, if you Google my name and then light language, I'll come up straight away. What I do always ask that I like for support is I do a collective healing once a month. And it's only for $12 and it's 45 minutes of channeled light language and you get a recording. And it's really, not a lot for you guys and it really helps and supports me. I do one-to-one sessions. I do activations as well. People who have just activated in light language or who are, wanting to activate in light language. I do obviously energy clearing. I do past life regressions as well. And then I've got courses that I do. All of my work is channeled. Everything that I offer on my website down to the color coordination is channeled. So it's not Altea giving you a service. It's a channeled service that has been given to me to offer to the collective. So I think this is a very important thing to say. Even though I do a 6-week program that takes you through. It's really a crash course on awakening. It helps you with clearing past life work, again, channeling, manifesting abundance, learning how to remove your own cords, and you get out of it that you can basically like do energy work. That's what it is. That is my goal. That's what I have been told to do, to train light workers, to train people to learn how to do energy work so that they can go out and do this work themselves. I don't want you to need me or anyone else. I want you to go out and do more healing work on other people. So yeah, I'm sure if there's a space you can put the link to
I will be putting all
my
the links
website. Yeah,
below
and
in
you
the
guys can go
description.
look there. Perfect.
I want to let you guys know before she and I, plan this interview for you, I did go and get a session because I mean, I wanted to know. I wanted to know what a session was like. And she did a chakra like clearing, a
Yeah, aligning
chakra
and
clearing.
balancing.
Yeah. And it was so good. I was out like a light for like the whole time and it felt so good and I felt so good. And she even like told me what was going on in each chakra and like where I had blocks and how I could support myself in those chakras, like super helpful. I do recommend going and trying out her services because like it felt really good and it's important even if you are already a healer or if you do reiki or whatever, you need other healers. Like it is so important. I know as a healer I find so many other healers with this weird competitive notion that like, oh, I don't work with other people, I don't do this, I don't do that. And how are we supposed to help the collective and teach them to come to us if we won't go to other
Yeah.
people? We need to practice what we preach. We need to reach out to other healers and we need to say, hey, I want to work with you. I value what you do. And if she hadn't gone in and checked out everything, I also wouldn't have known that I had like rainbow light waves coming out of my throat. And that was so cool to hear. I was like, I do all this singing stuff. I didn't know.
There you go.
And she was like, hey, you're grounded, but not as much as you should be, not grounded in the way you need. And that was so validating. I was like, I feel grounded, but not in the way, like, there's like a different grounding I need. And so she told me, and I now am able to work on that. So you guys should really go and reach out to her. She has very reasonable services, service prices, and you get so much for it. So
Thank you.
anyway, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for
It
having
is
me.
such a blessing to have you. Thank you guys for listening and for tuning in today. Like, it is so great to have so many like listeners coming and tuning in every week for these sessions and these interviews. It's so incredible. Just keep doing the work. You guys are amazing. Um, anyway, I hope you guys have an amazing rest of your day. And thanks everyone for ascending together. Bye.
Bye.